Welcome to Darling Adventures. I'm your host, Jenny Soloria. Today we're going to look at a great new tool that I think every sewer needs to have in their toolbox. I'm joined here by Gwen. Gwen, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Jenny.
What have you brought for us?
Well, I brought a solution to a really common problem when buying fabric.
Oh, what problem is that?
Have you ever been in the fabric store where you're shopping for one particular pattern and then a different fabric catches your eye and you think it would be perfect for another project, but you don't have your pattern with you and you don't know how much to buy?
Oh, I have that all the time.
It used to happen to me a lot until I developed these cards to solve that. They're designed to help you estimate the right amount of fabric to buy when you don't have a pattern with you.
And how did you make them?
Well, believe it or not, a friend and I took all these tables from the back of sewing pattern envelopes and typed them into computers. We did over 8,000 patterns.
That's a lot of work.
It took us almost 2 years.
Well, so how do I use these cards?
Well, let's take a look at this women's card set. It's got 5 cards, one for women's dresses, skirts, pants, blouses, and jackets. Here's a close-up of the dress card. It has 3 main parts: the main fabric requirements table, the safety margin table, and a bunch of sketches. The main fabric table works a lot like the table on the back of a pattern envelope. It breaks down by the size of the garment you're going to wear and the width of the fabric. The difference is that it gives you 3 numbers instead of just 1, a minimum, an average, and a maximum. They're actually pretty much what you would expect. The minimum is the least amount of fabric that any dress pattern out there that we could find called for. The maximum is the largest, and the average is how much fabric you'd need to buy if you wanted to have enough to make about 50% of the dresses out there. Mm-hmm. Now that leads right to the safety margin table, which gives you a little bit of an idea of what would happen if you bought a little bit more than the average. This table, for example, shows you that if you took your average and just added half a yard to it, you'd have enough to make 77% of the dress patterns out there instead of 50. And look, if you added just a yard and a half, you could make 90% of the dress patterns. The last main piece is a series of sketches, and they're really just designed to give you a little bit of an idea of what a minimum dress might look like, or an average, or a maximum. You want to see how much they cover you, how long, how full they are. The lines show your shoulders, waist, hips, and knees, and it's just to kind of give you a sense of how much the fabric will cover.
How do I actually use the cards when I'm at the fabric store?
Good question. Well, look, we've got some bolts of fabric right here. Do any of them catch your eye?
I do like this pink.
Okay. So the first thing to do is imagine the kind of dress you'd like to make out of that, and then compare it to these sketches.
I like this dress, but I'd like it to be a wrap and maybe little sleeves. I like that length.
Okay, great. Now this dress here requires about the average amount of fabric. Since you want to add some sleeves to it, we probably should add a little bit more. If we come up at the main table, to make a size 6 and 45 inches, you need to buy 2 3/4 yards. If you added just 1/4 of a yard, you'd have enough fabric to cover 70% of the patterns. So you would buy 2 3/4 plus 1/4, or 3 yards of fabric.
Okay.
Then you get home, and you look through your patterns, and you see if you've got any that look similar.
This one would do.
Okay, how did we do? How much fabric does it need in a size 6?
Size 6, dress A, 45 inches, 2 7/8.
And you bought 3.
3. So we just went over without going too far over and spending money we didn't need to.
Exactly. Of course, using these cards, you won't always get the exact right amount. But the truth is, most people can estimate a lot more accurately from the cards than just by pulling a number out of thin air.
So do you just have the women's cards, or do you have others?
Actually, we have 5 sets covering women's clothes, women's plus-size clothes, clothes for babies and toddlers, clothes for children, and clothes for men. And we have both metric versions of all of our card sets, as well as these in yards. They all work the same except for the men's. The men have to be a little bit difficult, of course.
Of course.
Let me show you how those work. Thank you. The thing we discovered about men's clothes is that the standard wardrobe items, like a long-sleeve dress shirt, don't fall nicely into the minimum, average, and maximum categories. So when we put the sketches on, instead of showing some bizarre tunic that no man would ever wear that you could make with the average amount of fabric, we put the staples up, the basic wardrobe items, and we tell you how much you have to adjust the numbers in the table. So for example, The little pluses in the background show you that if you want to make that standard long sleeve dress shirt for your man, you're going to have to add a little more to the average, and this sentence tells you to add 1/4 of a yard. Similarly, if you want to make a casual short sleeved Hawaiian shirt, the minus signs tell you that you can buy a little less than the average, and these sentences tell you how much. Other than that, the cards work just the same.
So these cards are super helpful and super cute, and they'll fit right into my purse, but do you have them electronically?
Actually, we do. We have ebook versions available of all of them that you can put on your phone, smartphone or your tablet.
And if anyone needs more information or would like to go ahead and purchase these, what should they do?
You can come to my website, www.gwenhug.com, and thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure.
So there are lots of notions out there that are going to help you when you're in the sewing room, but this is a notion that is going to help you when you're at the store to make sure that you're getting the right amount of fabric without going over and busting your budget. Visit darlingadventures.com for more sewing tutorials, videos, and ebooks. And as always, may all your adventures be darling adventures.